Hello, hello! David Snowpick here from Snowpick Games. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, Bad Tunes. Oh, you saw the VR Voxel devlog stuff? That game. I would really love to go back to that at some point. Possibly, I mean, starting from the beginning. I had so many difficult performance problems in that game, and yeah, I loved the idea. I loved what was coming together, but as soon as you started building anything substantial, it would just get crazy slow on the standalone VR headset on the Quest. If I ran it on my computer, like PC VR, perfect, worked great. But yeah, I think needs some rethinking from the ground up, I think, to get that one going. I would love to make it work though. It was such a fun thing to play with. Like the hardest thing about designing that one is that, like, again, because as soon as I started building anything like properly interesting, it would get too sluggish to use. So I never really got to the point where I could start designing it to its full potential. So I don't know. Worth worth a second look one day. How is everyone doing? Welcome to the stream. Anybody else out there? I realized as I was coming in here that I'd forgotten to turn on the intro music that plays during the countdown and all of that stuff. I'm off my game today. Yeah. Anybody else getting ramped up for GDC? GDC is in about a week now. I'm going to be flying next week Saturday to go out. Godot has a presence. I'll be working the Godot booth for probably the majority of my time there. That's how it was at GDC last year. I also went and worked the Godot booth then. It was tons and tons of fun. I got to, when I wasn't working the booth, I got to go try all kinds of cool technology and cool games. They had there was a part which was like a game festival thing where they just had a grid of places you could play games, and they were great games. But then in another area there was another you could go play games where it was like the alternative input schemes festival or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was like you would hit a thing with a hammer or other weird stuff, like pick up a telephone or all these kind of crazy things to control the games. It was a lot of fun. But I got to try PSVR for the first time. When I was there, I played I don't know, 10 minutes, this really tiny bit of time of Call of the Mountain, which seemed really, really cool. I would love to be able to spend more time with that headset one of these days. When they make a PS5 Pro, I'm going to buy one because I never managed to get a PS5 just with all the weird shortages and all that stuff. And then I kind of lost interest. I don't know. I wonder if that happened to other people. I was thinking about this the other day that I had always been a PlayStation person. Not always, but recently in the last 8 years or whatever, I'd been a PlayStation person. And buying the PS5, I would have bought it immediately. I would have bought it the day it came out if I could have, but it wasn't available, so I didn't. And then I kind of lost interest after a while. But anyway, GDC, I got to try the PSVR. I got to try the Pico 4 for the first time. I played Red Matter 2, which looked beautiful in it. I still have to play that game on the Quest 3. So I think it will look even better on the Quest 3. I got to try Pimax Crystal. I got to try the Nreal AR glasses. That was really cool. Yeah, and just being able to chat with people and feel the general game development energy, but also just the Godot energy is a lot of fun. The PS5 is trash. I don't like it. What is your preferred console then, Mr. Bad Tunes? No original game in PS5. Sony has a lot of cool IPs. I mean, the Spider-Man games, the Horizon games, the why is this not coming to my mind? The big dude who grunts and is killing gods. God of War. They have God of War. They have lots of good stuff that's PS5 only. Oh, you're into the PC. Hey Malcolm, welcome to the stream. No worries. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Imagine game engine in VR like Dreams for PS5 would be great. Yeah, I've seen stuff about Dreams. That looked really cool. Anything that brings the idea of creation to more people, I'm really, really into. I would love to be able to see more of that, but I haven't had a chance to ever try it. Kratos, yes, that is the guy. boy and all of that stuff. Yeah, I I really like a lot of the Sony IPs, and I've liked their consoles for a long time, but they just somehow totally missed the I don't know. They missed it for me on the PS5. I got so frustrated of waiting to be able to get one that I got an Xbox, and then I had the Xbox. I was like, I don't need a PS5 anymore. I got the Xbox. It's good. I can just go like a normal person and like press buy on Amazon, and it comes to your house, and it's perfect. You don't have to deal with scalpers or any of that stuff. Dreams is close to my dream game engine. Like that stuff is just drag and drop. Yeah, I mean that seems really cool. That seems really cool. Especially like doing it on a console. You know, like it's one thing to make a game engine that works on PC, but to have it work on console as well. Anyway, it's great to see everybody. Let me know how you're doing, how your projects are going. If you're coming to GDC, it'd be awesome to hang out. While we're still talking though, I'm going to attempt to get my stuff going here because I didn't do nearly as much prep as I should have before getting on the stream. I just rebooted my headset. I have to switch it back to developer mode. There's this interesting thing, like there's like this multi-account feature on the Quest. So like you can pick up the headset and then say, I am David, and have your own account. And then like that allows the other people in my family to have accounts. Namely, my older daughter is super into VR. And so she has her account on this particular headset. And every time she switches to her account, developer mode turns off of the headset, which is frustrating. So I have to turn developer mode back on. I did that. All right. Let's get Godot running. Also, an important first step if we're going to develop a game with Godot. Am I on the right branch? So I haven't worked on this game in quite a while. Yeah, I think at least a month. At least a month I haven't worked on it. I guess I'll show you guys what it does and where it's at. It's this Galaga-inspired like VR plane flying and shooting arcade-ish style game. Yeah, what version of Godot are we going to use? I guess let's just use Godot 4.2. I think that's what I was using last here anyway. There are the clouds. I think last time we were working on this on stream, we were trying to get the cloud cover better, and I'm still not totally satisfied with it. Before, the clouds felt a lot more realistic, like they were kind of spread through the sky in a more natural way, but it didn't frame the play area the way I wanted it to. I wanted the clouds to somehow indicate to the player how far they could travel, because this isn't like full 6DoF motion through the sky. This is an arcade game. It essentially takes place in like a wind tunnel shape, and I wanted the clouds to indicate where you're allowed to go. And I think the new version accomplishes that, but it may have gone too far. We may need to have this wind tunnel and then also scatter some clouds on the outside to make it still look sort of real. And I'm not entirely sure what we're going to work on today. This game has a lot of problems. A lot of problems. So maybe you guys can help me decide which aspect of this we're going to try and improve today. So in order to do that, I guess let's actually run it. I haven't even run it in a long time. We'll get that working, and I'll show it to you, and we'll decide what we're going to work on. What's going on in chat? Dreams is like a sandbox, lots of features you can mess around with. I hate the fact that it's only available on PS5. Hey, Cyber Habanero! Welcome to the stream. I believe the appropriate title of a person who uses Godot is a Godottian. At least that's what I always say. Godoer, also good. I will accept it, but I've always said Godottian. VR needs to go a long way to compete with PC, I think, because no matter what, VR will not feel like a PC game. Well, so, I mean, you can play PC games in VR. So I'm a little, do you just mean standalone VR? Because, like, yeah, if you're playing a standalone game on the Quest, it's running on a mobile chipset. The Quest is like strapping a phone to your face. So it's definitely not as powerful as PC. But if you play a PC game, like you can play Skyrim on your PC to your VR headset, and it's still Skyrim. Like it didn't stop being Skyrim because you have a VR headset on now. Of course, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as the best VR game to play. Some better alternatives ones would be maybe Half-Life Alyx, I hear that Star Wars Squadrons is really good, and I bought it, but haven't had a chance to play it yet. What are some other big PC VR ones? No Man's Sky is fantastic in VR. I love playing that. Ooh, I gotta finish the Expedition. There's an Expedition going on right now I've been playing, and I think it's done in a week. Gotta get back to that. But yeah, I mean, PC VR is like playing a PC game because it is playing a PC game. It's just, sending the picture to your headset. All right, let me put on the headset, try and get all this stuff linked up, and try to execute the game. Let's do it. Okay. Step 1. I am David Snowpeck. Step 2. Yes, my computer has permission. No, wrong thing. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I need to give my computer permission to connect to the headset, which I may have clicked in my mess of clicking on all of the wrong things. Let's go into Godot and see if it's recognizing it. Yay, it's recognizing it. So let's do send to my Quest 3. This should work. Are you going to work for me? Please? Pretty please? Okay, there it goes. All right, now let's try and make it so you guys can see what I'm seeing. This button. This button. Oh, okay, so the game's starting. That part's working. I can see the game. Oh, and so can you guys. Sweet. All right. So, well, you fly this plane with this control stick here, and these enemies fly around. The enemies are new, I think. I don't think these were here in the last stream. You shoot the enemies, and they explode. Kill a bunch of them here. The enemies don't get terribly interesting until some later waves. In the first 2 waves, which I guess we'll try to kill all of them really fast on the next wave so we can get to the more interesting 3rd wave. Yeah, I guess if I'm going to start talking about the problems this game has, this enemy model is a problem. In some ways, it's better than the one that was in here before. Because the one that was in here before was just like an asset that I downloaded of an alien spaceship, and it looked cool, but it didn't suit the gameplay. It was like a really thin ship, whereas like something big and kind of bulbous, like these alien ships, are better for the gameplay of this game. And I made the model of these aliens, and I don't particularly like it. It has too much geometry, and it's just not aesthetically pleasing. Also, the material came out really weird in Godot. The material, as I created it in Blender, I think looked considerably better. So, all right, so these guys are going to fly around. They're going to form a grid. Here we go. They're going to form the grid. Then they're going to start shooting at me with these spheres. And then they're going to try and fly into me. Ooh. They still coming back? All right, so that's really all there is. The game doesn't have much to it. Ooh. Ah, he did the dive thing. I remember on an earlier stream we were working on the avoidance algorithm that the enemies use, which I think I may have broken a little bit. Let's try to fly into him. Oh, no, it still mostly worked. Still mostly worked. Where are they? All right. Let me get the headset off so I can, or maybe here, I'll just do like this. There we go. So among the many problems, the enemy model needs to be redone. I don't think we're going to do that on stream. it may be worth experimenting with some other things around the enemy model rather than the model itself. I think you guys watching me use Blender on stream would be exceedingly painful because I am not an artist. I'm not that great at Blender. But there are some things that I've never done with in Godot that I think we need to do with this model or the future model, which is figure out LODs. The enemies have way too much geometry, so when I redo them, I'll try to do it with like half as many triangles. But even so, I think given the big difference in distances that happen in the game, the enemies can be right up in your face, or they spend a lot of time just being a couple of pixels in the distance. I think we'll need to have LODs. So figuring out how to make those LODs and swap between them as they get to different distances is something worth doing. We could experiment with that. There's a bunch of VFX things that I want to do with the enemies. Like in my mind, I picture this sort of like engine exhaust thing that might be a fun VFX thing to do. Also, like before they shoot, I would like to have some sort of charging VFX, and then of course the spheres that they shoot at the player could use some proper VFX rather than just being a purple sphere. What else? I mean, the game isn't particularly fun. That's also a big problem that the game has. I think it's a matter of tweaking a million things to get it to kind of cross the point where it's fun. I think we need to look at the player's speed, the enemy's speed, the way that the enemy is attacking, and just really like focus in on those details and iterate like crazy to get it to actually feel good to shoot and dodge and play the game. And then once we sort of hone in on what that should feel like, I think then we could take that and build a proper level from it. So that's another big thing that needs to be done. We need to make the game fun. There's a pile of bugs I have in my to-do. Oh yeah, so I put some of the things I already talked about with the alien craft. The avoidance calculation, I think I broke it somewhat, maybe not entirely, but somewhat. Yeah, this is again a thing we won't necessarily be able to do all on stream because it involves messing around in Blender, but like I think some of the work there could be things that might make sense to do. Like right now, there is no health, there is no winning and losing. For that, we would need some sort of health indicator, even if it's not final art. I think creating that and then using that in testing the gameplay could be helpful in trying to make the game actually fun. Yeah, so Cyber Habanero, you need a target cross. Pretty much everyone who's played the game has said that. Especially my daughters. My daughters have played the game more than anyone, and they're real good playtesters because they do weird stuff sometimes, and it ends up finding amazing bugs, or it helps me understand bugs in a way that I didn't understand it when I was testing it, because they would just do things to this extreme that like made it clearer what the bug actually was. But yeah, they complain a lot about needing to have a target cross. I think my pa, who tested it as well, said the same thing. So that is definitely something that would be good and could also help with the gameplay, right? So making the game fun, I think we might need to add the aiming reticle in order to iterate on the fun. Oh, all right, Bad Tunes. Catch you later. Go hang out with that dog. There is a cockpit on Open Game Art, but I think it's not textured. Huh. Could you drop the link? I'd be interested to see it. I was looking at references of different cockpits, and there's a lot of really cool stuff to draw from there. See if we can find some similar things. Yeah, like look at this. Look at that. That would be beautiful. Like getting these kind of gauges in there. And like I like the wood. And I think these are like little switches. Yeah, I have some sketches in my notebook based on looking through like a ton of these different pictures. Oh, this is too much. I'm thinking like 4 gauges is probably where we'll end up. Oh, here's from a game. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at this thing. This is beautiful. I don't know entirely what that is, but like that gauge going back and forth over there, and this like wooden handle, and there's like a bell or something over here. Yeah, I love the idea of like this low-tech biplane fighting off these hopefully high-tech metallic kind of looking alien craft. Like I think that's a really fun aesthetic. Yeah, Cyber Habanero, if you have the link for that open game art thing, drop it in. If you dropped it in on YouTube, YouTube may have filtered it out. YouTube likes to remove messages from chat and just not let you know that it's done so. So you might need to come over to Discord to drop the link. Yeah, these are cool. So I have there's a lot of good inspiration for the cockpit, but I think if we were to focus on gameplay, adding a health indicator so that we can figure out how much health should you have, what does it feel like as far as how many hits does it take to kill you, and that can help with iterating the gameplay. So what do you guys think? What should we work on? Should we work on VFX, visual stuff, LODs? Should we work on gameplay? Should we work on fixing the avoidance math? There's a lot of options. I think I'm not particularly feeling like working on the avoidance calculation. I do enjoy like steering behaviors and the math in there, but like at this moment, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling math. So maybe something gameplay, or maybe just those like visual things. Depends on how much we want to stress out our brains. I think like doing the LODs and the VFX and that stuff would be kind of lightweight. We'll get to see some cool flashy things on the screen. That might be fun. Although game design, like actually trying to figure out how to make this thing fun, is also interesting, but maybe less rewarding. We might work on it, be very frustrated, and not actually have a fun game at the end of the stream, at least. I'm not sure what you mean, Cyber Habanero. Dang, you can see them? What are you saying? All right. So I guess if no one is going to jump in with what you would like to work on, I will pick. I think figuring out the LODs could be interesting. It's something we'll need to figure out anyway. Even if we switch from that to something else, I'm just really curious. I've never done LODs in Godot. I tend to do things that exist on a relatively small distance range. Things are either always real close to you or always real far from you. Being like the distances here are actually quite extreme. Like the end of this tunnel is like 4,000 meters out. And yeah, they will start at the end, come all the way up to your face, and then go all the way back out to the end. And changing, 4,000 meters, 4 kilometers, is a pretty big difference. All right. Welcome to the Godot docs. Level of detail is one of the most important ways to optimize rendering performance in a 3D project, along with occlusion culling. Ooh, and once we get this going, we could play around with it by like spawning just a crap ton of enemies and kind of see how it feels. Maybe we should do that initially so we can get like a baseline. We can get a baseline frame rate. It's been a long time since I've been in this project. I know somewhere there is a level. Oh, here we go. Level 1. Cool. I don't necessarily want to mess with all of the AI and logic and flow and stuff in this level. Well, let's make a new level. I think we can start by cloning this one, duplicating. Let us duplicate. We'll call this level test, or test level. Test level. I don't know why with the underscore. I never do that. Let's just go test level like that. All right. So test level. And let's delete a ton of stuff. we're going to maybe keep... I think we do want one behavior tree. So how should we do this? We can have a spawner that spawns 10 enemies and flies... We'll have the enemies fly from the back to the front, and we'll just keep spawning them, spawning tons and tons of them. But the thing that will make this a good test is if a good number of them are far away and a small number of them are close, right? Because that's what the LODs will help us with. We'll be able to make those far away ones be super tiny simple meshes, and the ones that are close up be the full mesh. So we could maybe do that by keeping the enemies in the back for a while, and then sending them to the front, and then maybe we just like kick off our spawner every half second or something like that. So let's leave one of these spawners. We don't need the formation. We don't need any of this stuff. So we have a path, which we're going to change. Ooh, let's get my number pad over here. I need to make these limits bigger. Near Z, far Z, let's make the far Z 6,000. There we go. Oh, it's not even that much more. Let's make it bigger. Let's make the far Z, we'll do 10 kilometers here. There we go. All right, so right now we have this path. I think we could do a much simpler path. We can delete quite a lot of these. And we don't need to make them as curved. We do this much simpler. All right, so what do we have left? Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's a good start. Let's draw some more points. This is the create point, right? Yep. All right, so just make them loop around maybe 2 times. Oop, I didn't mean to do that. Loop around 2 times, maybe get a little bit closer. And then come out this way. And those are at kind of the right Y level. That's nice. All right, so this is our simple left spawner. We'll rename it to, I guess, just spawner. We have our path, we have our enemy spawner. This spawns 10 enemies at a time with a delay of a half a second between each enemy spawn. It follows the path, and then it despawns. So that's good. And then we have our behavior tree that drives the whole level. And so we start our spawner and wait for no more enemies. We don't want that. Get rid of that item. We have a wait action, and then I think we just want to start over again. All right, so what we have set up here, the behavior tree that drives the whole level will start the spawner, then it will wait some amount of time, and then it'll just come right back to the beginning and start the spawner again. And then the enemies, their behavior tree, will be to follow the path and then despawn. So let's look at the bounds here. Oh, weird. Okay, I may have done this totally out of scale. Okay, so I put this clever, useful box in here to help me with level design, because the box shows the play area, and I think the path that I made is not going to work, unfortunately. So sorry, everybody. I think we have to redo this path again. It's been too long since I worked on this. We will remove all of the points again and start over and put this in the right scale here. Okay. So it's a really low point as well. Maybe we'll switch to the side and let's bring that point up. We'll start kind of in the middle. All right. Let's add the points. We're going to have them. Ooh, that looks weird. Have them go around here a bit. And then fly off, past the player, and despawn. And we just have this one real weird curve to adjust. Ooh. What is going on? There we go. Okay. That seems good. All right, now let's test it. We got to go back to the main scene and switch which level we have. So we're loading level 1. Catch you later, level 1. We're going to load test level. Oh, and I got to hide that box. Okay. So how often are we spawning? I guess we'll see. Let's take a look at it. We'll redeploy it to the headset. Try and get casting going again. I should have left it going. I just was annoyed by hearing the sounds. I guess let me turn the volume down. And let's get casting going again. Is it going to kick in? From here, it says that casting's working. Okay, there we go. All right. It's actually doing fairly well with all those enemies. We might need to do something more extreme to get a good baseline. That's kind of cool seeing like this horde swarming around. Yeah, I wish there was more variations in Y level, just like for coolness effect. All right. Whoa, what are they doing? They're not despawning. They're going to the end of the path and then returning to the beginning of the path? What are you guys doing? I'm so utterly confused. Or did I accidentally place a point at the end of the path? I might have. Test level. Let's look at the path. Yes, I did. I accidentally placed a point over here when I was trying to uncurve that thing before. All right. Well, I think this is a good test level. I don't know that it provides us actually with a good baseline though, because I didn't get any frame rate issues. Oh, there we go. Now I'm feeling some frame rate issues. Let's try and get the let's get the debug overlay that tells us the frame rate. How do I do that? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've done it. Search. I think it's called OVR Metrics. OVR Metrics tool. Install. I guess I haven't used it on this headset. That's what happens when you have 6 headsets. All right. Enable persistent overlay. All right. That is really hard to look at. It's not giving me any data either. Can you guys see that? Yeah, it's not giving me any data. Quickset enables basic. Oh, there we go. Or no, we didn't. Enable persistent overlay. Display debug data on overlay. So I can see the overlay, but it's not actually putting any data on it. I wonder if we need to start the app again. Quit app. Oh, here's just a test thing I was working on. Okay, now we're getting some data. Only a little bit, but we're getting some. All right, let's kick this back in. I'll make this full screen so you guys can see it too. All right, we got lots of these guys spawning. It is so hard to see this overlay. I have to like crank my eyes way to the top. Let me see if I can adjust that. Scale, distance, pitch, what? Distance? Oh, interesting. I kind of like that a little further away. Scale, sure. Can you come downward a little bit? There, oh, okay. Okay. That's so much easier to see now. All right, so we're keeping a consistent, almost 72 frames per second. Let me shoot some of these guys a little bit, see if that triggers any frame drops. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, we're dropping frames a little bit, but it's not that extreme, actually. What can we do to stress this out a little bit more? What if we try to target 90 frames per second instead of 72? Although I don't know, it's getting a little wavy now. Yeah, we're dropping into the yellow. Okay, maybe this is a good baseline. What do you guys think? We want to hit it hard enough that we're dropping frames. We got pretty good CPU and GPU utilization also. It seems to sort of stay around 75-ish. Ooh, we had a big drop there. Okay, I think that'll do. I think that'll do as a baseline. Hey, 25th, welcome to the stream. My favorite part is the clouds. You're one step away from Star Fox. Yeah, you know, my personal inspiration for this has been Galaga, but yeah, there is a sort of Star Fox feeling to it as well. That's interesting. I should maybe look at the gameplay of Star Fox a little bit and see what can I borrow from there? What inspiration can I derive from there? It's been a long time since I played Star Fox. Okay. Next, we are going to experiment with LODs. All right. Level of detail. On this page, you will learn how Mesh LOD can improve, how to set up LOD. This is what we want to know. How to measure Mesh LOD's effectiveness in your project. Oh, interesting. I guess we should have read that section. Where's the how to measure? Oh, okay. So I think they're going to show you how to show different metrics in the editor, or maybe not. All right, let's just read this. Historically, level of detail in 3D games involved manually authoring meshes with lower geometry density and then configuring the distance thresholds at which these lower detail meshes could be drawn. This approach is still used today when increased control is needed. However, in projects that have a large amount of detailed 3D assets, setting up LOD manually can be a very time-consuming process. It's not time-consuming in this case because we have the one model, but as a result, automatic mesh decimation and LOD configuration becomes increasingly popular. Godot provides a way to automatically generate less detailed mesh for LOD on import and then use those LOD meshes when needed automatically. This is completely transparent to the user. The mesh optimizer library is used for LOD generation. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it works with any node that draws 3D meshes. That includes Mesh Instance 3D, Multi-Mesh Instance 3D, GPU Particles 3D, interesting, and CPU Particles 3D. So as we've talked about and worked on other streams, the clouds are a GPU Particles 3D. It's a particle system. And the reason I chose a particle system as opposed to like a multi-mesh is that with a particle system, the animation is also done on the GPU. So with a multi-mesh, you would be doing the instanced drawing on the GPU, which gives you better performance with lots of objects, but you would still be animating them on the CPU. So doing it with a particle system puts it all in the GPU. But yeah, if we could do LOD for the clouds, that could be interesting too. I mean, it might. We'll have to see what it looks like, but that could be interesting. Generating mesh LOD. All right, by default, mesh LOD generation happens automatically for imported 3D scenes. Once meshes are generated, they'll automatically be used when rendering the scene. You don't need to configure anything manually. That's interesting. However, mesh LOD generation does not automatically happen for imported 3D meshes. This is because .obj files are not imported as full 3D scenes by default, but only as individual mesh resources. To make an OBJ file have mesh LOD generated for it, select it in the file system doc and go to blah, blah, blah. Okay. I think the enemies are GLTFs because that's what I would have exported them from Blender as. Let's go check that out. Enemy, where are the actual assets? Assets, enemies, Bugbot. Yep, it's a GLB. We already have generate LODs on. If true, generates lower detail variants of the mesh, which will be displayed in the distance to improve rendering performance. Oh no. Oh no. Does this mean we're already using LODs and and the performance isn't that great? That's not good. Not all meshes benefit from LOD, especially if they are never rendered from far away. Disabling this can reduce output file size, see mesh level of detail. Yep, that's the article we're reading. So how do we even know if the LODs are being used? And how do we know at what distance they're being used? Mesh LOD generation process is not perfect. It may occasionally introduce rendering issues, especially in skinned meshes. This is not skinned, so we're good. Mesh LOD generation can also take a while in complex meshes. If a mesh LOD causes a specific mesh to look broken, you could disable LOD generation for it in the import doc. It's also speed up resource importing. This can be done globally in the 3D scenes and more sessions or per mesh. Blah, blah, blah. Comparing mesh LOD visuals and performance. To disable mesh LOD in the editor for comparison purposes, use the Disable Mesh LOD Advanced Debug Draw mode. This can be done using the menu in the top left corner of the 3D viewport. Yes, but we don't want to see it in the editor. That doesn't tell us anything. We need to see it running on the headset. Enable frame view time, blah, 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 blah. Information if mesh LOD is working correctly in your scene. Your camera is far away enough from the mesh, you should notice the number of drawn primitives decreasing and FPS increasing when mesh LOD is left enabled. To see LOD decimation in action, change the debug draw mode to display wireframe, and then adjust the rendering mesh LOD change pixel threshold project settings. Configuring mesh LOD performance and quality. You can adjust how aggressive mesh LOD transitions should be in the root viewport by changing the rendering mesh LOD changes threshold pixels project setting. To change this value at runtime, set mesh LED threshold on the root viewport as follows. I wonder if there's any specific VR stuff going on with this, because like VR messes a ton with the viewports. Hey, Autumn Scott, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. Have you kept using your Quest? Because it was a while ago now that you picked up your VR headset. I'm curious how it's been for you, what you've been playing, or if it's ended up in the closet collecting dust. We still never got around to playing mini golf together. We should totally do that. Each viewport has its own mesh LED threshold property, which can be set independently from the other viewports. The default mesh LED threshold of 1 pixel. I don't understand how pixels. I don't see how pixels come into this, right? The mesh LED threshold of 1 pixel is tuned to look perceptually lossless. It provides a significant performance gain with an unnoticeable loss in quality. Higher values will make LED transitions happen sooner when the camera moves away, resulting in higher performance but lower quality. If you need to perform per-object adjustments to mesh LED, you can adjust how aggressive LED transition should be by adjusting the LOD bias property on any node that inherits from Geometry Instance 3D. Values above 1 will make the LED transitions happen later than usual, but lower performance. Values below 1 will make LED transitions happen sooner than usual, resulting in lower quality but higher performance. Additionally, reflection probe nodes have their own mesh LED. We're not doing anything with reflection probes. When rendering the scene, mesh LED selection uses a screen space metric. This means it automatically takes camera field of view and viewport resolution into account. Higher camera FOV and lower viewport resolutions will make LED selection more aggressive. The engine will display heavily decimated models earlier when the camera moves away. As a result, unlike visibility range, HLOD, you don't need to do anything specific in your project to take camera FOV and viewport resolution into account. Again, like once we start talking about camera FOV and these kind of things, it makes me wonder if something might be not working or working differently when you're doing VR, because we use a special camera. And so, I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. Using mesh LED with multi-mesh and particles. For LED selection, the point of the node's AABB that is closest to the camera is used as a basis. This applies to any kind of mesh LED, including for individual mesh instance 3Ds, but this has some implications for nodes that display multi-meshes at once, such as multi-mesh GPU particles. I think this probably meant to be GPU particles 3D and CPU particles 3D, but it just said GPU twice. Most importantly, this means that all instances will be drawn with the same LOD at a given time. Oof. Okay, so we can't use the LOD for the clouds. The clouds are like a massive particle system that extends over 4,000 meters, over 4 kilometers. And if the particle system can only display one level of detail across the whole particle system, oh, you guys weren't seeing what I was seeing. I was looking at the clouds for illustrative purposes, but you guys weren't seeing it with me. We can't use it there, which is interesting. If you have instances, multi-mesh that are far away from each other, they should be placed in a separate multi-mesh instance 3D node. Doing so will also improve rendering performance, as frustum and occlusion calling will be able to call individual nodes while they can't call individual instances in a multi-mesh. Yeah, that doesn't actually apply to us really, because we can't do frustum or occlusion calling on these clouds because the clouds are always visible. You know what I mean? And we can't split them up into separate particle systems that would be smaller, because then we would see the clouds like come a distance, disappear, and then reappear. That would look pretty weird. Adam says, it's been a while. I've been playing Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is real good. Then I got bored. It's the nth time that I completed it. Ah, interesting. I never completed Resident Evil 4, but had a lot of fun playing it. Are you playing because there's 2 versions of Resident Evil 4, right? There's like the remake of the original, and then there's like a completely new remake. I think probably the Quest one is only the older one, which is the one I played, but super fun. It's interesting playing VR adaptions of older games because they have to take some of the things from the game that only really worked in 2D and then find a way to make it still happen. So like in that one, like your character will like jump out a window and like do a slick roll, and what they'll do is they'll just sort of take you to third person watching your character do this on a screen and then go back to being in the action, which kind of sucks, but isn't that bad. Like I felt like it didn't take away from the whole experience. The original imported by the meta team. Yeah, that's a fun one. I didn't get to completing it, but I had a lot of fun playing a couple hours into it. Have you done any PC VR stuff, Autumn? Like things where you're playing the game on Steam and then streaming it to the headset, like doing Half-Life Alyx or any of those kind of games? That's also definitely something you should check out if you haven't had the opportunity to. My headset strap, I can look it up, but I really like this strap because it's got this extra hinge here, which makes it really easy to rest it on my head like this when I'm doing development, as opposed to the one that doesn't have that. I can look it up. I think it's a Kiwi one. Yeah, here we go. I found it. Oh, it doesn't work on the Linux desktop? So actually it does, but it's a whole lot more work. So I do play PC VR almost entirely with Windows because I have this machine set up to dual boot, so I can reboot it into Windows and I play PC VR games that way. However, I did at one point in time set up ALVR, which is like a PC VR streaming thing that does work on Linux. It does. I played a couple minutes of Half-Life Alyx through it, which was really interesting. I wasn't expecting it to work, but it did. I don't know if it was like Proton running in Steam that ran it, or if there's actually like a Linux version of Half-Life Alyx, but whatever, it worked through this ALVR. I can try and find a link for that too. It was a pain in the ass to figure out, and I didn't do it on this machine. I did it on my laptop, so I don't have it set up on this machine anymore, or ever. I had it on this one. I switched main machines, so I can't just like show you, but it totally works. Let me try and find a link. Yeah, I guess this is the link for both Linux and Windows and whatever. But yeah, it was painful to install, extremely painful. You have to get like specific versions of FFmpeg or something like that, but it does work. All right, so what the heck are we going to do about the LODs? It appears like Godot is doing some automatic LOD stuff. I don't actually know if it's working. I don't understand what these settings mean when they talk about pixels. I was expecting this to be like relating to distance. You know, if you're a certain distance away, use different levels of detail. It doesn't even tell us how many LODs it's generating. Like, I don't know how many versions it makes. Does it make 2? Does it make 3? Does it make 4? A lot of these settings were on viewport, so let's go look at viewport, and let's try and find some of these and see if the docs here make more sense. Okay. The automatic LOD bias to use for meshes rendered with the viewport. Higher values will use less detailed versions of meshes that have LOD variations generated. If set to 0, automatic LOD is disabled. Increase LOD threshold to improve performance at the cost of geometry of detail. To control this property on the root viewport, change the settings here. So let's just try cranking this way up and see what happens. Like, I want to see extreme LOD changes. Not editor settings. Project settings. LOD. Rendering mesh LOD. Threshold pixels. Why pixels? All right, well, let's just crank it like hugely up. 345. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand these units. Let's see what happens. Okay. I'm watching this enemy model so closely. It is ridiculous. Oh, okay. I think those do look lower detail. Let's see if we can catch an LOD pop. See if we can catch where it pops into more detail. Gotta wait for the point where some of them get close. Oh, come on. You guys are supposed to fly at me. Come fly at me. This is taking forever. Come on, dudes. I'll just shoot some things while I wait. Whoa, whoa. My plane's level of detail has gone crazy. I can't even see my stick. Okay, here we go. So when are they going to pop into their higher detail? They just aren't. All right, okay, so those are definitely lower detail, and they do look mostly fine far away, but why don't they ever switch to high detail? Because they're like right in my face. Maybe 300 was too high of a value. Let's try setting this down to a lower value. Not export. Project settings. Let's try 100. I don't know if that'll take effect immediately. Yeah, I probably have to redeploy. I think I do have deploy with remote debug on, so theoretically live changes can happen. Tony Manblast, I've never understood these LOD settings either. Yeah, so it did mention a screen space algorithm, and it is talking about things in pixels, but it still seems weird to me. Okay, we definitely need to make it so that my hands don't turn into weird, deformed paddles. Maybe let's just start with that. Let's reduce these LOD settings until the things nearby look vaguely normal. We'll just keep reducing it by big-ish amounts. Oh, that's interesting. So if I hold it like right by my face, but then it decimates real fast. Okay, so still 50 is too high. All right, let's drop all the way down to like 10. Okay, my hand is basically normal. There shouldn't be a distance at which I can hold my hand where my hand becomes less detailed, because that would be weird. All right. And the enemies do look less detailed. Like they look sort of square. I guess I have to wait for some of them to get close to me, but what I want to see is a clear pop. I want to see them switch from low detail to high detail. Okay, guys, when are you going to fly at me? Oh, here we go. I'm like right up on him. All right, so there is a distance. I have to get really close though. That's too close. But this is awesome. This is so cool being able to actually see it in action. All right, let's do, I don't know. So the default is 1. Let's try 2. Oh, but we have to wait till they get to us to see anything. Let's change this test level. Maybe we'll have 2 alternate paths. We'll have 2 possible paths that can be used. Let's duplicate this one. Path 3D 2. Let's hide the first one. Let's delete some stuff from the second one, and we're just going to have them fly at like straight at us and watch the LODs change. So I don't have to wait for them to do, you know, all this looping. Okay, so select point. Let's bring this point this way, and let's turn on the bounds. And we want to make, so I think the player is like right here. So we want to have, them fly just straight at the player. And what did I change the LOD to? Did I change it? I remember thinking I wanted to change it to 2. I don't remember if I did that or not. LOD threshold pixels 2. Okay. Let's see what we got. Oh, I forgot to turn off the box. Let's turn off the box. All right, so where's my other, oh, here's my other controller. Okay, let me get up to your height here, guys. Okay, cool. I see like right about there, they snap from the low detail to the higher detail. I wish I knew how many levels they had and how severe the levels were. You know what I mean? Like, is there a way to make this, the level of detail that occurs with these guys right here, like a little bit more detailed? And have the further ones get even less detailed? Die, alien scum. So, I mean, this actually isn't that bad of a setting, to be completely honest. I just wish that we had more LODs. And because we're only doing so many, we have really great frame rate. You know, we should try this again with the other path. Oh, you know what? I bet I overwrote the other path because I didn't duplicate the resource. All right, so let's undo a lot. Is there a way to see the like undo redo buffer in Godot? I really like being able to see that in Blender. And then I know like what my next undo is going to do or what my previous, oh, I guess we can sort of see here. Toggle visible was the, so if I do redo, toggles visible is something. Oh, okay, I think I see. Undo, undo, there we go. That was the duplicate nodes. That's a kind of lame way to see the undo redo buffer, but it works, it works. Can we figure out how many LODs there are? Or detail variants of the mesh? If you need to manually configure level of detail with artist-created meshes, use visibility ranges instead of automatic mesh LOD. Let's see what this is. Along with mesh level of detail and occlusion culling, visibility ranges are another tool to improve performance in large, complex 3D scenes. On this page, you will learn what visibility ranges can do and which scenarios they are useful in, how to set up visibility ranges, manual LOD in Godot, how to tune visibility ranges for best performance and quality, how it works. Visibility ranges can be used with any node that inherits from geometry instance, blah, blah, blah. Since visibility ranges are configured on a per node basis, this makes it possible to use different node types as part of an LOD system. For example, you could display a mesh instance 3D representing a tree when close up and replace it with a sprite 3D imposter in the distance to improve performance. I was playing Assassin's Creed Nexus, which is the VR Assassin's Creed, and it's real cool. I highly recommend it. It's janky as all heck, but I mean that's kind of what you expect from an Ubisoft game, especially an Assassin's Creed game. But even despite all the jankiness, it's still a lot of fun, and the graphics are great, and just being in those environments is really, really cool. However, I remember I was in a part where I was like swimming up to a ship. And as I didn't realize it until it popped, but they had replaced this entire ship with a 3D sprite. And I thought it was really remarkably well done. I mean, I guess it wasn't perfect because I saw the pop, but I did not realize that it wasn't 3D geometry until it switched from the sprite into 3D geometry. And then, of course, like I could climb up on the ship and go kill the dudes on it or whatever. But it was phenomenally well done, this sprite 3D imposter. Or I guess in Godot it would be a sprite 3D imposter, whatever they used in Assassin's Creed Nexus of the equivalent thing. The benefit of HLOD over traditional LOD systems is its hierarchical nature. A single larger mesh can replace several smaller meshes, so the number of draw calls can be reduced at a distance. Oh, that's interesting. So you could even have fewer materials and get fewer draw calls at a distance, and then have more materials and more draw calls when it's up close. For example, you can have a group of houses that use individual mesh instance 3D nodes, one for each house, when close up, but turns into a single mesh instance 3D that represents a less detailed group of houses, or use a multi-mesh 3D. Lastly, visibility ranges can also be used to fade certain objects entirely when the camera gets too close or too far. This can be used for gameplay purposes, but can also reduce visual clutter. For example, label 3D nodes can be faded using visibility ranges when they're too far away to be readable or relevant to the player. Setting up visibility range. This is a quick start guide for configuring a basic LOD system. After following this guide, this LOD system will display a sphere mesh when close up and a box mesh when the camera is far away. A small hysteresis? Is anyone familiar with this word? Hysteresis. Hysteresis. The leg in response exhibited by a body in reacting to changes in forces, especially magnetic forces. The phenomenon exhibited by a system, often a ferromagnetic or imperfectly elastic material. Wow, this is very scientific. Okay, so the leg in response exhibited by a body. So a lag, some kind of lag. A small hysteresis margin is also configured by the begin margin and end margin properties. This prevents LODs from popping back and forth too quickly. Okay, so it's a kind of delay when the camera is moving at the edge of the LOD transition. Visibility range properties can be found in the visibility range section of geometry instance after selecting the mesh 3D node. Add a node. Okay. So add a node 3D node that will be used to group the two mesh instance nodes together. Add a first mesh instance node as a child of the node 3D. Assign a new sphere mesh. Okay, so this seems very, very manual. So you would actually have two separate mesh instance nodes to represent the two LODs, which implies that we're going to be generating the different LOD versions in, oh yeah, use simpler materials at a distance to improve performance. Yeah. Use dithering for LOD transitions. Godot currently only supports alpha-based fading for visibility ranges. You can, however, use dithering instead by using several different materials for different LOD levels. There are two advantages to using dithering over alpha blending for LOD transitions. High performance, as dithering transparency is faster to render compared to alpha blending. No visual glitches due to transparency shorting issues during LOD transitions. Downside of dithering is that a noisy pattern is visible during LOD fade transitions. This may not be noticeable at higher level. I'm actually reluctant to have any kind of transition. I think them switching immediately sounds fine to me. I mean, transparency is a huge pain in VR in general. Here, where's my... Okay, so I can see that everything past, let's say, this point is the lower detail mesh. And if you see the overlay, can you guys see the overlay? It's actually not helping performance that much. I mean, we're still getting frame drops despite the lower level of detail. And I don't think we could reduce it more, at least with the automatic system. Yeah, I think messing around with this manually might be the way to go. I think we're gonna have to decimate the meshes ourselves in Blender, but let's give this a try. This is cool. More like a window instead of a harmony, right for use case. Like for bow transition, you explained it's better to have a fade out or something to transition from the sprite to the 3D model. Yeah, I mean, okay, so if you're using a sprite 3D, you're going to have transparency anyway. But yeah, I wonder really if like, so these, because they can change orientation, I don't think we could use a sprite 3D. But I think for those really far away ones, we could decimate the heck out of that mesh. I think we could really, really make that low level detail. So let's try it. I think we're going to end up messing around in our enemy scene. So that's this one. And we have our model here. We're going to end up having several instances of this. So let's look in here. How do we do this? And no 3D that we use to group together to do it. And 10 and margined 1. Second as a child of the 3D node. Mesh. I'm a little confused as how do these ranges actually work. But I think we can figure it out. Okay, so let's add a node 3D to be the parent. We will call this models, and we'll drop this one under it. And we're going to need to drop into Blender. Actually, let me start it this way. Oh, I have Blender configured to always go to this screen. Let's send it to the screen that I am streaming. All right. And we are going to open recent BugBot. All right. So like I was telling you guys in the beginning of the stream, I also don't know why the material looks so crappy in Godot. At some point, I need to figure out like why it just doesn't come through the way that I want it to. Trying to get it to not stop showing the lines there. I think, here we go. Yeah. So the color is a little different, and it's like not nearly as reflective in Blender than it is in Godot. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I don't have a light on it, so I can't show how it's rendering it here. But anyway, let's, yeah, the environment is definitely not the same. That's for sure. But even so, it seems like the material rendering is different enough that I'm going to need to spend a whole bunch of time tweaking the materials on the Godot side to make it look, I guess, close to the way that I want it. Anyway. All right, so we need to make some decimated versions. So let's Can I duplicate this whole collection? Duplicate? Is it Control D in Blender? Or just Shift D, D? I don't remember. Copy paste. There we go. Okay. So this will be BugBot version 1, modifiers applied. We'll say, I was trying to edit your title. Modifiers applied. Decimated. Decimated 1. All right, so we want to hide this one. So we're just working with this one. Then we're going to add a modifier, which I don't use Blender often enough to be really fast at this. Sorry, everybody. Deform, generate, decimate. All right, so usually collapse looks better to me. Let's see. So this would be a good, really far away one, perhaps. What's something that would be better a little closer up? So we just want to be, where do we have our triangle count? So we have 1,172 triangles. Let's see if we can get that. How far can we get that where it's barely noticeable? I don't quite like how it's getting the red bleeding into the eye. We could probably fix that, actually. So this gets us down to a little under 500 triangles. This seems good. Let's apply it. Or wait, face count 351. Why do I see now? Oh, faces. Yeah, so tries, faces. Let's apply. And we'll do this again. We'll copy and paste. Reorder you. I am not good at Blender. Just go up here. Just slide up there a little bit. Decimated 2. And here we're going to decimate it like really, really far. Let's go to something that would be so extreme because we're going to have it way out in the distance and we don't care. How many triangles is that? 210? Still feels like a lot for how crummy it looks. Yeah, that looks horrible. We could fix it up a little bit though, actually, I think. And I think that's probably the advantage of doing this by hand is that we could like make this material or the way that these triangles are colored not look so weird. Yeah. No, let's go with one of the extreme ones. I just wanna see this really extreme. So there's the sort of pincers are still curved here. And we just go a little bit further. And they're straight. Oops. All right, and that is 186 triangles. Let's give this a shot. Apply. All right, so we have the full detail. the medium detail and the low detail. Let's export all of these. So we'll start with medium detail. Select the whole thing. And yeah, I'm not going to try to fix the color there, at least not yet. We'll see how this works and kind of figure that out. You can ask Blender to apply the modifiers and export. I've never had good luck with that. I tried to do that. So I built the mesh mirrored, and I tried to do the export or apply modifiers on export thing, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't put the whole model. It would just give me half of it. And so I ended up applying the modifiers manually, and then that worked. But again, I'm not good at Blender. I need to do some more Blender learnings. All right, so we are going to export this as GLTF. Where is the export window? What? Export GLTF. Are you not supposed to give me a window, Blender? I am flabbergasted right now. What am I doing wrong, guys? Okay, this is the blend file I opened, right? Yeah, okay, let's save this. And why, when I go to export GLTF, do I not get a window or anything? What the heck? So in the past, I go to export and it gives me a window. But it's like literally doing nothing. What am I missing? Sure, save it, but like... Yeah, I'm restarting Blender, see what happens here. File, open recent, bugbot. Oh, I know what's happening. It was opening the window on a different screen and desktop. Okay, all right. Our decimated one, export GLTF, go over to the right screen, the right desktop, and send this back over here. Okay, there we go. Want to include selected objects. And we want this to be bugbot. We'll say LOD1. And then we'll get the second one. And export GLTF. And send this over the right screen. We're going to do bugbot LOD2. Include selected objects. Export GLTF. All right. Let's go back to Godot here. This is going to be main. Let's get the rest of our models in here. So bugbot LOD1. It's facing the wrong direction. We can fix that. Let me just look at how I did the transform here. Negative 180 on the Y. This is going to be LOD1. And let's get bugbot LOD2 in here. Also swing it around. And there we go. And then I think we can even test this in the editor, it sounded like. Let's turn them all on. Visibility? No. Oh, we actually have to edit this on the mesh instance. All right, so I don't really want to make inherited scenes because that's a pain. Let's try, can we do editable children? All right. So then here, visibility range. Okay. The distance from which the geometry instance will be visible. So the default value is use disabled visibility range check. Margin. Let's do a margin of, I don't know, 10 meters. Begin for the high detail though. Let's look at the visibility to end. Okay, I think we want to set the end because this is our high detail one. We'll go out to 10 meters. This one will begin at 10 meters and end at, let's say, 100 meters. And this one will begin at 100 meters and end, I don't know. We don't want it to end. But we still seem to be seeing two of them at once. Well, and we want to set a margin on all of these. We'll begin margin of 10 when the end is 10. That's a pretty big margin. Say 1 meter. This one, yeah, maybe a margin of, I guess, begin margin of 10, or 1 end margin of 10. Does that make sense? And this one, begin margin 10. Use to disable the range check. We don't want to disable the range check, though. Wait, is this working now? No. Okay, maybe we do end 4,000. Maybe these margins are too big? Let's kill all the margins. Okay, so it's sort of working. When I go out this far, I do see it switch to the hyper low detail. Get in a little closer, and now I'm seeing two at once. Why am I seeing two at once? This one works. This one goes from 100 meters to 10 meters. Oh, because I have this one begin at 10. Okay, so this one should begin at 100. All right. Then we get closer, and we switch to that one, and we get closer. Too close. Okay, this needs to go further than 10 meters. Let's say 20 meters? 25 meters? And here we'll go from 25 to, say, 200. And then from 200 to 4,000. Can I get rid of the 4,000 and have it still work? Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, I think maybe this distance is too far. I think it should switch to the lowest. Well, I don't know. And we probably do want to set some kind of margin. Let's say 5. On this one, we'll do the same for its begin. And on the end, we'll say 10. We'll change that one in for the begin. Okay, so I still feel like we need to get a little bit too close for the full detail one to kick in. But let's try this. Let's try this in VR and see what it's like. I think I will definitely need to redeploy. So let's do that. All right, so are those the super low detail ones? They must be. I can barely tell, to be completely honest. Yeah, if I see the back of them. Yeah, I think those are the super low detail ones. They probably are staying for too long. They probably need to switch to the mid-level detail ones when they're this close to me. And then when they fly towards me, we'll hopefully be able to see the transition. Here we go. So this one's flying towards me. So that's the medium detail. And am I ever seeing the high detail one? I'm going to say no. It's never showing me the high detail one. All right, so we need to push these ranges back a little bit. Whoa, what the heck was happening there? Look at, they're like flipping. They're wigging out. I think that's the avoidance algorithm bug that we chose not to work on this time. All right, so this one needs to be, let's say, within the first 100 meters. And this one should be from 100 meters to, let's say, 500 meters. And then this one should be from 500 meters out. I don't know if that'll take effect immediately. Ooh. Yeah, it did take effect immediately. Let's maybe yeah, it's still, they still get too close before they switch to the full detail one. So let's say the full detail one should be within 150 meters, 200 meters. Let's go to 200. And this one will be from 200 to, let's say, 1,000. Oops, not 100. To 1,000. This one will be from 1,000 meters. And I don't think we actually need to worry too much about the margin thing, because that's to prevent them flicking back and forth between two LODs. But for the most part, they just come straight at us. Like there isn't a lot of yeah, they're either coming straight at us or coming straight away from us. I don't think we'll hit a lot of the flickering possibility. All right. So when I'm seeing them now, I'm seeing them all high detail. Let's see if we can catch where the switch is. Okay, they're definitely low detail. Oh, that is pretty nice. The difference between... Oh, why are they vanishing like that? That's not what should happen. Okay, but I get close. Something weird's going on. Now I'm close up by them and I'm not seeing the high detail once again. All right, let's redeploy it. Let's redeploy it, see what happens. Godot's like live update functionality is amazing, especially when you're working on something where you have to deploy to a remote device, but it works very inconsistently. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right. So those look like the super low detail ones. Ooh, that looked like they switched to the medium detail already. Yeah, I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. Or you're not even... Or yeah, you're seeing the screen. Like right over here. I can't quite aim at it, but right at this spot, they're switching from the super low detail to the higher level of detail. I think it's a pretty nice transition, actually. It's hard to notice. Now, all we have to make sure is that when they get close to us, that the detail change is correct. Okay, so they switch the high-level detail right about, yeah, right in here. That looks good, guys. So when I get right in their faces, I'm seeing the high detail model, but even a little bit distant, and it's that medium detail one. We're still seeing pretty big frame rate dips, however. I mean, the scene is designed to try and stress our rendering capability by putting way more enemies on the screen than we would in the actual game. And our GPU and CPU utilization is not peaking, but we are still dropping frames. Yeah. I enjoy watching the pop. I wonder what the transition things. Hey, Unster, welcome to the stream, and when free. It's too tiny to tell the difference on the screen. Is pooling implemented? So by pooling, do you mean like mesh instances? I'm not using mesh instances for the enemies. The clouds are mesh instances, but the enemies are individual scenes so that I can give them, you know, full AI and different VFX and stuff. Not that they have anything now. We're playing around with LODs and trying to use that to optimize things. Yeah, this scene is insane. How about we try switching to a normal scene and see what the experience is like there. So rather than our test scene going back to our level. I just realized something. I duplicated this. Did this destroy my path? No, my path is still good. Good. Okay. One of the frustrating, like this having in Godot having resources be shared is such a powerful tool, but when you're duplicating things and don't realize that some of the resources may still be linked, and then you're like editing a different level and it destroys your original level, and all that stuff's really frustrating. But it looks like that didn't happen here, so we're good. Let's get rid of this test level, and let's switch back to our level 1. Ooh, interesting. We got we hit a breakpoint. We got a couple of debug sessions going. Our one's terminated. All right, let's see what this looks like in our more realistic scene. No, I meant instead of creating and destroying instances, keeping a list of instances and reusing them when available. No, that isn't what I meant. So now I know what you mean. You mean like in the sense of when you're like creating and destroying like a ton of things, instead of doing that, keeping around instances and like resetting them and changing them. No, I'm not doing that. I don't think I have enough instances for it to be useful. So I do that in like the rollback netcode add-on. The spawning functionality does pool instances, because from frame to frame, actually from rollback to rollback, like each tick that you're resimulating, you might destroy and recreate tons and tons of objects, which means that you could be creating and destroying, I don't know, 200 objects per frame, which is a lot. Here, the objects are not created and destroyed very quickly. They, you know, here's 10 that come into existence. You know, I'll be able to kill one after a period of time. Let me reset my location here so I can actually grab this stick. I'm definitely not going to kill more than one per frame. and certainly not again on the next frame. Like maybe if I kill a bunch on a single frame, like then the next frame I won't kill any of them. So I don't think that's a useful technique here, because we're just not creating and destroying things very often. Yeah, I mean, with this few enemies, we are keeping a steady 72 frames per second. I was able to notice the lower quality mesh a little bit more than I wanted to, so I might need to adjust some of the visibility distances. Yeah, so that transition is beautiful. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It switched from the super low quality to the medium quality mesh, and then these are all the medium quality mesh. And I could do a little bit of work in Blender to clean up the rear part of the enemy ship. Whoa. But that transition from the high quality to the mid quality, I think could use some work. I think it should happen slightly sooner. But no, I'm quite happy with how these LODs look. This is cool. Yeah, it should probably happen like, I don't know, 100 or 50 or something meters sooner than it does. Now I get what you meant when you told me at Godot that some headsets can be flipped up. Didn't expect that there were headsets with actual hinges. Yeah, so this is an aftermarket strap. I put the link in the chat a while ago because Adam asked about it. But yeah, so if I like here, this is a Quest 2, but I have a Quest 3 back there with basically the same strap. Let me make it so I can see what I'm doing on the screen here. Like this has just a straight thing with the one hinge here, and it can turn the whole thing. This one has an extra hinge, which makes it easy to flip it up for development. It's very, very nice. And it's about half the cost of the official Meta strap, which is this straight one. They're both nice straps. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, as far as playing games, there really isn't any difference. But for doing development, this strap is definitely superior with being able to have that other hinge. Using Unity is mostly Unity thing to C# garbage collector being pragmatic. So that is definitely, yeah, in Unity you have to do it. It is useful in Godot sometimes. Like I said in the rollback netcode add-on, because you're resimulating, you could resimulate like 20 ticks within a single frame. That could involve destroying and recreating just enormous numbers of objects every single frame. And in that case, I did, through actual profiling, find a serious performance improvement by pooling basically like scene instances. So if you're gonna, if you have like an enemy scene that you're could end up creating and destroying tons of them, just keeping the same instance of that scene around and reusing them, there was a sizable performance improvement. But it's rare that this is something that actually makes a big impact in Godot. Anyway, I think I'm going to make like a tiny change to the distances here, but I feel like our LOD experiments were a success. I don't know that the scene we used to profile was necessarily the best scene because we didn't see a ton of improvement there. But like, I know we're switching from having, 1,200 triangles to 200 triangles between the highest and lowest detail mesh. And since we do spend a lot of time with these enemies super duper far away, just covering like, I don't know, 20 pixels on the screen, being able to render fewer triangles to do that, I think is got to be a win. And the fact that the way we've set up the transition points, it's not terribly noticeable. Just the one here. Let's change this from 200 to 300. It's hard to even see it happen in the editor. Where we had the points before, it was much easier to see. I can't even tell. I'm going to try it again really quick in the game and get a feel for it. All right, so they are at the lowest level of detail. I just saw them switch to the mid level of detail. And there we go. It just popped, the front one just popped into the high level of detail. I think that's good. Let's watch as they fly away how they change. Yeah. The pop as they fly away is a little more noticeable just because the way the colors are on the back of that mid-level detail model are bad, but I think we could, just fix that in Blender and make it look nicer. I wonder what, so there's the options for transitions. We have this disabled, like the fade mode. Should we try those and see what they do? Fade mode. Self dependencies? Self? What does this do? Let's see what it does. Yeah, as far as I can tell, fade mode is like not doing anything visually different. I still basically just see the mesh pop from between the different versions. Yeah, as far as the options, the documentation was talking about dithered and alpha blend. Why the options are self and dependencies. Oh, here we go. This explains fade mode. There are 3 fade modes to choose from. Uses hysteresis, as we learned, to switch between LOD levels instantly. This prevents situations where LOD levels are switched back and forth quickly when the player moves forward and then backward at the LOD transition point. Okay. Self uses alpha blending, so self does alpha blending. Fade itself out when reached. Fade isn't determined by the begin margin and end margin. Dependencies uses alpha blending to smooth, so both use dependencies. Or both use dependencies. Both use alpha blending. That's weird. Visibility parent? I don't entirely understand that. So where do we switch the alpha blending versus dithering thing? Because that was only, Godot currently only supports alpha-based fading visibility ranges. You can, however, use dithering instead by using several different materials for different LOD levels. There are 2 advantages to using dithering, blah, 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 higher performance, such as faster render, no visual glitches, but how do you actually do it? Downside of dithering is that a noisy pattern is visible during LOD fade transitions. This may not be noticeable at higher viewport resolutions. Fades. It says you can by using different materials, but it doesn't say how. All right, well, in any case, this doesn't seem to be useful, so I'll just disable it. Cool. Jakob says, "Dear God, that sounds way too complicated." I agree. So I think the only way to improve this presently would be to, in Blender, clean up the geometry a little bit. So like the back of the model, I think, is the worst looking in all of our different LODs. Like this one even looks real nasty compared to, the original. I feel like the front of the model does great. in the different LODs. Like this one in particular, we could clean up a little bit by getting rid of that red coloring that appears under the eyes. This one I think also looks really good at a distance. Like you can't even tell. The transition from this one to this one is like flawless. Except for, you know, all of the problems with the back of the model. Anyway, like I said at the beginning, I'm probably going to redo this model again because I don't like it. I mean, it's close to what I was picturing in my head, but I feel like it's got too much geometry and not enough detail, if that makes sense. Like I think it would look better to have less geometry and then use the lines in the geometry more to imply detail better. I'm not an artist, so I might try to redo it and come up with something that's worse. But I think I am going to redo it and give it a try. But I think learning how this works in Godot and kind of the general scheme of it, I feel really good about it. Are you using some kind of automatic decimate, or did you handcraft the model? So I handcrafted the original model, and then we used the decimate modifier in Blender to make the different variations. So I think that's probably what I will do with the final model when I get around to it, is use Blender to decimate it to something close, and then hand improve some of the details. Again, like the back of the model needs to retain the kind of circular shape. So I would probably go in, by hand and make sure that there's a good circle there. But yeah. What about the mesh opt that's built into Godot? So we started with that at the beginning of the stream. We were trying that, and the problem wasn't the way that it decimated. That was fine. It was the lack of control over how many LODs we get and when they happen. You can go back to the beginning part of the stream and see, but we were seeing the transition basically between only two LODs that were noticeable, between a sort of one lower quality and then the main quality. And as we adjusted the threshold thing that determined where it happened, it would just always seem like the lower quality version was too low quality for how close it was when it transitioned, and then the far away version could probably be even lower quality, because it seemed like it was the same. Again, like there's no insight into the automatic thing. Like it would be really cool if I could actually see, so like in the automatic LOD stuff, all we get is generate LODs. It doesn't tell us how many LODs it's generating. It doesn't let us inspect what those LODs look like. The configuration of like when the different LODs happen is super vague. We get one parameter to adjust, which is threshold pixels. And I'm actually not even entirely sure what that means, other than higher values means that the lower quality LODs get closer to you. That's all I was able really to determine. If there are ways to get more insight and more control into the automatic LODs, I would happily use them or give them another try at least. I do like the idea that I'm able to hand fix these kind of problems, like the back of the model, because if the automatic LODs like just got this wrong always, like you have no recourse, right? Because it's automatic. Whereas if I'm going to generate them all in Blender, then at least I can, fix it. What I do like about the automatic LODs, though, is it seems like they're just enabled by default, which is pretty cool. So like I had assumed when working on this, because once we had enough models, performance would suffer, that just LODs weren't happening. But they were happening, but just maybe not aggressively enough, because like I was saying, the play area here goes about 4,000 meters back. So the distances that the enemies can be between you, like the distance between you and the enemy, can actually get really large, making it, I think, critical for this type of game to have LODs. Whereas in games where the difference between how close and far the enemies are is much less extreme, you don't go from having, 20 pixels of an enemy to having, your whole screen covered with it that often in a game, I think. So, Magjan, welcome to the stream. This is i3, is my window manager. I recently switched to it, I think maybe about a year ago. I had used Notion and later a fork of Notion for 20-something years before finally deciding that I should probably modernize and switch to a newer window manager, and I switched to i3. I quite like i3. There's still some things I miss about Notion, but it's good. I recommend it. Double thumbs up. Well, there's 5 minutes left on our regularly scheduled stream, so I don't think we'll have time to really dig into any of the other things that we talked about maybe working on or any of the other things on my list. We really only spent the whole time working on LODs, but for me, this was super educational. I had a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for joining me for another stream. I'm really going to try to get back into working on this game such that by the next stream, I am planning to do another stream next week on Friday. Hopefully things will have advanced somewhat. Maybe we'll dig more into gameplay or maybe more into VFX stuff. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm going to sneak in one stream before I head off to GDC next week. If anyone else is coming to GDC that I'm not aware of, please let me know. We can get together and hang out. I know Adam's going to be there. It's going to be awesome to see you in person, Adam. Jakob says, out of curiosity, how are you handling movement? Static camera with moving environment to avoid precision issues? Yes, I'm doing exactly that. The world moves towards us, and we actually stay in the same spot. So exactly that. We are always near the origin. We never move anywhere on the z-axis. We're only moving on the x and y-axis. The clouds coming at us, and not in this part because they're floating in this grid, but for the majority of the time, the enemies are flying towards us, again, to give that kind of relativistic illusion that we are actually moving forward. Can Godot run with DirectX? Yes, it can. Was that in 4.2 or only in 4.3? I can't remember, but whether it's in a stable release or one of the dev snapshots, yes, it can run with DirectX. I don't think it's included in the official builds. I think you might have to build Godot yourself. Godot is relatively easy to build, but yes, Godot can run with OpenGL, Vulkan, or Direct3D. There is someone working on a PR to add Metal support. That's Apple's lower level graphics API. I don't know when that's going to get merged, but it seems like they're making really great progress on it. I'm quite excited. Yeah. Well, everyone, I don't think I got anything else unless you got any more questions for me. Oh, yeah, and Jakob's working on GLES 2. I'm also really excited for the GLES 2. That combined with the single-threaded web export stuff that Adam has done, I think that's going to be really, really cool. Can it run DirectX in Godot 3? No, only Godot 4. Godot 3 can only do GLES 2 and GLES 3. It's Godot 4 that has the multiple graphics APIs, and maybe we'll even get more. I don't know. It seems like we've gone from just having the 2 to having more options very, very quickly. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next time. And in the or it's this way in the Discord. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.